Why hello YouTube, greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow to diet review number 3. Hopefully I've settled on a name for this sub-series of reviews at this point, but if I haven't, well at this point in time that's what it's called. This is the review for GDO Cliffjumper, a figure that for all intents and purposes is first edition Transformers Prime Cliffjumper until a bit later. As such, I'll be calling it that for the vehicle section. First edition Cliffjumper is a figure I'm kicking myself that it's taking me this long to get a proper review made that wasn't 45 seconds in an hour and a half long video. I've had this figure for 2 years, and the copy before that I had for 5 years, and what the heck was wrong with me? It's absolutely no secret on this channel that alt modes, especially high performance cars, are the key highlight of these videos, and just look at this thing! This thing screams 1971 Barracuda! Starting from the front, you have the 4 headlights of the 71, the only year that the Barracuda was changed to emulate the Challenger's double headlight array, as opposed to its normal 2 giant headlights, which I feel the need to point out are a translucent plastic inset for the glass and an opaque plastic housing painted in metallic silver. You even get the tapered shape of the CUDA grille, the aesthetics of which change from the 3-stage cells to a more traditional mesh grille for what I'm sure are legal reasons. Adorned on the front of the hood are the bull horns, which I'm guessing were added to the car as a bit of an homage to Cliffjumper's head design, something that was characterized for the sake of the show, I'm guessing to distinguish him more from Bumblebee. The side turn indicators are molded in, not painted though, something I need to rectify one day, and the wheels are pinned in there. This is something I don't see too often anymore. It feels like we have one of 2 options. Either we have the peg part of the wheel to fit inside a molded hub, or we have the hub as the wheel to fit over a peg. Obviously, one looks significantly better over the other, but this pinned solution doesn't look half bad either. The chrome cap isn't that intrusive, and these tires roll like a dream because of it. Another nice thing about the tires, mind you, is the designers took the time to mirror the rims based on the side of the car they bolt onto. It's a nice touch, but one that's appreciated regardless. The doors feature these molded side view mirrors, door handles which I feel should be chromed to better suit the era this vehicle is going for, another thing on the to-do list for me personally, and behind the door is a molded section for the Autobot badge, which has been left blank, but only on the passenger side, as when you look at it from the driver's side, there it is, plain as day, tampographed on that little molded section. I kinda like this. It feels more realistic to what you would actually see on the road with people putting plastic Autobot or Decepticon badges on their cars instead of the big decal on the hood. Don't get me wrong, I love the giant hood decals sometimes, but when looking specifically at Prime Cliffjumper, a character from a show that really took the whole robots in disguise motto and built its episodes around that, it really makes a ton of sense for it to be here and for it to be that inconspicuous. And I love that. At the side we get 4 exhaust pipes, 2 on each side, which look excellent here, if not confusing though, as at the back are another 4 molded tailpipes. Unless each cylinder head is getting a straight pipe unto itself, that seems a little redundant. That aside, the taillights are painted in a metallic silver with no red for the actual brake lights or anything. I'll admit that's kind of disappointing, but really if that's the only disappointment, I'm sure I'll live. Really, just through and through, this is such an exceptional car mode for Cliffjumper. More often than not, he's a Bumblebee retool, and this one time, he's an entirely different car. Like, Bumblebee from this continuity is a modern Chevrolet-inspired muscle car, then Cliffjumper is going to be very, very inspired of the 71 Plymouth. I can't iterate enough. This is one of the coolest alt modes, realistic or otherwise, from Transformers. For size comparison, Earthrise Cliffjumper, Studio Series Shatter, Studio Series Dropkick, Studio Series Custom Faded Bumblebee, X-Transbots Boost, Studio Series Mirage, Siege Sideswipe, Studio Series Soundwave, Studio Series Concept Bumblebee, and finally, Earthrise Red Alert. So that's vehicle mode. It's one of my favorite alt modes. I love how it more or less is the 1971 Barracuda with some slight tweaks. I mean, there's some panel lines, sure, the one on the windshield and the roof being the most glaring, but for what it's about to do, it kinda gets a pass. Stay tuned!
The Transformers will return after these messages. We now return to the Transformers.
So on to transformation. Start by separating the door and front fenders from the car. Then swing the hood section up and out of the way. Rotate around these panels to point away from the car. Straighten out those knee sections, bring out the foot, fold in the back window, then wrap around the door to form a leg with the front fender. At the back, separate the back sections of the car and move them to the side. Then, on each arm, move the trunk section up, rotate out the arm, close out the back panel around the hand, and then position the arms at the side. Then flip up the head. On the other side, fold the section down, then rotate around the waist. Separate the roof sections into two pieces, and then put the waist piece in there to keep the windows separated. On the hood, which is now at the back, start by taking these two sections on the bottom of the front of the car and rotate them inwards. Rotate the grille section up, separate the headlights from the hood, and get them into position to go under the windshield, then push the hood in, plug the hood into the back of the neck, and you're done. And oh man, what a transformation! At one time, I had the simpler release of this figure with the tagline Robots in Disguise in the box, and in order to accomplish this look, they had to resort to heavy use of faux parts. But this is just... no. Every part of the car is getting used. In fact, the only part that didn't get used is the front grille, which is hanging out on the butt, while a second molded waist piece shows up as that faux grille. Well, that's not entirely true, actually. Apparently, the front wheels are supposed to end up on the back of the thighs, so they molded that in, but didn't paint it tire black. And thank goodness. If we had this figure with 4 tires plainly visible, and then an additional 2 pretending to exist on the thighs, I might have just painted them red anyway to pretend they weren't there, so allow me to continue to do so. Because everything else engineered-wise on this decade-old toy is just about the best thing ever. For starters, this being specifically the GDO version, we get a nice G1 head adorned on the top. It's since changed in appearance and toy form since its release, but that doesn't change how great it looks anyway as a sort of stylized alternate timeline Cliffjumper. I love the way the trunk and the rear window make these big, chonky shoulders. The torso itself is absolutely my favorite part of it all. Like the animation model had the windshield split apart and the front of the car kind of wrap around it to keep it all form-fitted while also maintaining a tight, packed chest. And just about everything about that aesthetic has been captured practically in this figure. The roof actually splits apart. The headlights, which might I add because of their design are now light piped, also wrap around and keep it all tucked in, with that big angular waist piece tying it all together with a neat little bow. Even the back, with using the majority of the hood like a huge plate and the angled headlights as a second angle to keep the whole torso, front to back, just arranged so nicely. The only thing breaking up the look is the grille section hanging out back here, and I don't even really mind it. Like, everything else just works. It's such a fantastically designed figure. Like, you bring it right down to the leg, and even that is just designed in such a way that everything is neat and tidy. None of it spills out in vehicle mode, and all of it compresses into such a great-looking robot. As for accessories, he technically has none. What he does have, though, is a flip-out triple cannon, found by opening up the arm and rotating it out. Not just one, though. No, for in fact, he has 2 of them. Everyone's going on about weapon storage, and you end up having this huge drawer full of accessories, but this Cliffjumper just has his weapons built into the design. That's fantastic. And if I'm honest, it sort of feels more realistic to what a transforming robot would have, which is probably why it was like that in the Bay films right at the beginning of the series. Articulation features a light piped head and a ball joint that can look all around. Arms are on a ball joint with a cutout for outward movement, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, but nothing for the hands. Legs can go fully back, but only a little bit forward. Knees bend, but not by much, and the toes have a tilt and a rock to it. For size comparison, Earthrise Cliffjumper, Studio Series Shatter, Studio Series Dropkick, Studio Series Custom Faded Bumblebee, X-Transbots Boost, Studio Series Dinage, Siege Red Swipe, Studio Series Soundwave, Earthrise Smokescreen, and Studio Series Bumblebee. Aside from all the great things I just talked about, here's another reason why I love this thing. It scales fantastically as a realistically sized Cliffjumper with the rest of your cast. Like, there's nothing wrong with the cartoon-accurate scale of the minibots if robot cartoon scale is what you're after. But me personally, some days it really hits my scale taste when there's an incarnation of a figure like this. One that still looks close enough to the G1 aesthetic, that still has some of the core elements that make up the transformation, like the roof belly, the front of the car is your feet and legs, but is also something completely unique too. Like, dang, what more is there to say? The vehicle mode is killer, one of the best classic muscle car alt modes you could get your hands on. The transformation itself is nothing short of pure genius, and the end result is a robot that wears his car mode well, that isn't ashamed of the vehicle kibble he wears, but wears it with pride. Like, literally the only downside I can find on this figure is the articulation. It's not as good as it is today, and that's it. That's the only real critique I have. Yes, shame on you GDO Prime First Edition Cliffjumper for being slightly less articulate than your 10-year newer counterparts. For real though, I love just about everything on this mold. So much so that I happily bought it the second time when someone had it for sale 2 years ago in Moncton. And if for some reason I lost this copy or it broke or something, I would happily buy it a third time. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow.